quick recap of what we have done up till now. Up till now, we have we started with what is sales management. We started with understanding the difference between sales and marketing. We went ahead, we understood what is the role of a sales manager, and we also understood how trends have changed and how sales have changed in the past decade or in the past 2 decades. And I think it has gone a drastic change in the last 6 months. We then went ahead and we tried understanding the selling process. Why? Because unless and until you understand what happens at the grassroots level, you can never ever reach the top, because there can never be any shortcuts in life. And therefore, it is first important to understand the selling process. What is the life of a salesperson, the people who would be working with you? We understood the selling process with the help of Arogya Setu, again, a contemporary service app, so as to understand in real-time basis, how do we use it? Then we went ahead and we said, okay, now let's understand how does the sales organization work? And we looked at different kinds of sales organization, but that didn't reflect in your test. We looked at different kinds of sales organization. For the quick recap, it was geographical, it was product-wise, and it was client-wise. And finally, we said most of the organizations are hybrid-based. We also looked at a very interesting question, which I think Aryan just asked me, and maybe if you read the HBR article that I have shared with you, we also discussed the life of a sales organization and how it changes at every stage, and how the role of the salespeople changes at every stage. And thus, the role of a salesperson at the introduction stage is very different from the role of a salesperson at a maturity phase, and that we can only, and that as a sales manager, you need to be well aware of, because accordingly you need to train them, and accordingly you need to motivate them. And that had got us to the next topic of motivation, where we discussed different theories of motivation. We discussed with practical example in terms of the case study, which showed that how different people, how we have different kinds of personalities, and how as a sales manager, you have to deal with all of them and yet take them with you. Finally, we came back, in the last class, we discussed about training, because I said performance is a product of motivation and training, and motivation alone is not enough. You also need to train your people regularly, and especially in the dynamic times that we are staying, where change is the only constant thing. And therefore, you need to upgrade their skills all the time. And we discussed the process of ACME, which is why, aim, what, content, method, execution, and finally, evaluation. Now that we are clear, yes, we also discussed how many salespeople we should have. We did the workload method and we did the incremental method. At any point of time, any doubt, anything which is not clear, even though we have done it in the past, please let me know, stop me, get your basics clear, get a strong foundation, because it's only then we can build the building. Don't worry if we are a little behind in, just give me and so anything you don't understand, stop me, ask me, so that by the time, so as we progress, you are absolutely clear with the basics. Today, we are doing an extremely important thing, which is called the sales territory. So we understand a sales organization, I understand how many people I need, I'm ready to motivate them, I understand the importance of training. Now let's get down to the hardcore reality, the hardcore facts, because now let's understand where will they sell, and therefore the sales territory. How do we define a sales territory? So let me share this PPT with you. So I hope this is, you can see it at any point of time. As I said, if you have any question, please unmute yourself and ask me. So what the sales territory finally? What is a sales territory? Well, according to the different definitions, and I picked this one, it says a sales territory is defined as a group of present and potential customers assigned to an individual salesperson, a group of salesperson, a branch, a dealer, or a distributor. I'm really fascinated by this definition because look at this definition. In this definition, we are not talking about geographical boundaries anywhere. Nowhere are we limiting the sales territory by a geographical boundary, which talks about, which is how a definition should be. A definition should not just be about the present, the definition should also be about the future. And therefore, look at what it's talking about. It's talking about what is most important to us. That is the group of present and potential customers. At the end of the day, why am I making the sales territory? I'm making a sales territory because I want to sell to my sales people. So if I put the word geographical, then most probably I should have a sales territory at Mount Everest also and Thar Desert also, irrespective of the fact whether there are customers over there or not. No, that's not what is important. What is important is, where are my customers? And therefore, it looks at the group of present and potential customers, which are then assigned to a salesperson or a branch or a dealer or a sales manager or whatever. And again, very important, at a given period of time. So it's not that the sales territory which was made in 1991 will continue in 2021 also. It may not. But when we assign a sales territory to someone, it's for a period. It may be for 6 months, usually it's for a year, because your performance appraisal takes at the end of the year. So it is extremely important to understand customer and time. And why do we need a sales territory? We need a sales territory because obviously it helps in better market coverage. Now, what does it mean? So let's assume that there was no sales territory. And then I tell you, the sales manager, tell your sales team, okay, go. And you have to sell this product. Every salesperson may land up at the same place. You or they may not know where to go. So a definition, defining the sales territory, helps us to ensure that we are covering the entire market. To make it more simple for you, let's hypothetically, extremely hypothetically, assume that SCMS is the, you would understand, you would most probably identify with this. So let's assume that you are the sales manager and SCMS is the sales territory given to you. So SCMS has 6 floors and you have to cover all 6 floors. Now let's imagine you don't have a sales territory. Then your sales people may just cover the 1st floor. Your sales people may all land up on the 6th floor. Your sales people may miss out the 3rd floor. But when you have sales territory, you will ensure that all the floors are covered. Not only are all the floors covered, you will ensure that every salesperson is assigned to a separate floor. So that's why, so they are not clashing with each other, they are not working against each other, and they know where they have to work. Definitely, it gives you a very convenient way to evaluate the performance of a salespeople. So you were supposed to sell here. How much did you sell? Did you meet your targets, your goals, blah, blah, so on and so forth. And obviously, just combine everything together, add, multiply, whatever. This helps in utilizing the selling efforts to the optimum, and this helps in making the salesperson happy, satisfied, motivated, so that he can perform. The next question that comes is, so how do we have a sale? How do we define, how do we make a sales territory? Would you people be making the sales territory? Not really. Not, I mean, this is not something which is done manually in organizations. So this is a very, very complicated job. It requires a lot of understanding. And usually once the sales territories are made, we don't change them every year. So to make it very simple for you, again, to help you understand how do we do it, we have to first of all ensure that everyone gets everyone is asked to put in the same effort. Otherwise, it will not be fair. So, for example, if somebody on the first floor, the salesperson who is assigned the first floor has to sell to only 2 customers, and the salesperson on the 4th floor has to sell to 10 customers, it's not fair. I mean, so he will probably sell to those 2 customers and that's it. And the person on the 4th floor, he will have to go to 10 customers. So you have to ensure that the workload is almost equal in every territory. That means on every floor of SCMS, the workload should be almost equal. A plus minus here and there, but not such a drastic difference. Okay, at this point of time, maybe let me take a breather and ask you any questions, anything which is not clear, because as we proceed, it might just get a little more technical. Are we clear till now? A quick yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As I said, at any point of time, you don't understand anything, please unmute yourself and ask me. Say, ma'am, I don't understand this. Okay, so let me re-share my presentation with you. And yeah, so let me help you understand how do we do it. So this is a data that has been shared with us by the company. As I said, I mean, this is a very technical job. It doesn't happen like this, but you must, to help you understand the basics. So what is a trading area? Trading area is that minimum, is the smallest area that we are trying to, for example, see. So now look at it. It says trading area 1 has a market potential of 250,000. And the number of sales calls that I have to make if I have a salesperson to achieve that 250,000 is 25. Sales area, trading area number 7 has a potential of 750,000, and the number of sales calls that I as a salesperson have to make in order to achieve that potential is 65. So these are the trading areas that have been given to us. Now by different permutation and combination, we work so that we just remember that the working effort, the effort that every salesperson should put should be the same, because they should not feel that equity theory of motivation. I should not feel that I am not being treated equally. And therefore, the amount of effort that every salesperson has to put should be equal. So we did a little permutation and combination, and I got these 2 alternatives, alternative 1 and alternative 2. Now look at alternative 1, spend some time, have a look at it, and I'm not going to come back, just unmute yourself and help me know. So look at alternative 1. In alternative 1, the market potential for territory 1 is around 16 million, while in territory, on the other hand, look at alternative 2 over there. In territory 1, it is around 26.5. The territory 2 is 27.5. Territory 3 is 27.5. Alternative 1, territory 1 is 16.5. Territory 2 is 32.5, and territory 3 is also 32.5. Now, anyone, if you can unmute yourself and tell me if these are the 2 permutation combinations that you have been given, then which one do you think we should pick up to form our territories? Alternative 1 or alternative 2?
Ma'am, alternative 2, because it's been evenly distributed. Like you said, territory 1, territory 2, and territory 3, almost the market potential is same.
Fantastic. So, yes, very good. Absolutely right. So we are taking care of the first thing, that we should give everyone the same amount of workload. So yes, you are right. Territory alternative 2 looks better. But are we forgetting something? You're right. Absolutely right. I'm just asking, are we forgetting something? Go back to the previous one. We have forgotten the number of sales calls. Right? Because so this is okay. The potential is almost the same, but how much effort I have to do to achieve this potential? So for example, so when the moment I put the sales calls also over there, now look at this. So we put the sales calls, and the moment we took alternative 2. The moment we put the sales calls, for territory 1, the sales calls required are 295. For territory 2, the sales calls required are 240. And for territory 3, the sales calls required are 275. almost same, but maybe if I do a little bit up and down again, we did a little bit up and down again, a little few permutation combination, and the final picture emerges like this, where territory 1, it is 2.7 and 260 calls. Territory 2, 2.7 and 275 sales calls. Territory 3, 2.75 and 275 sales calls. So now the market potential is almost the same, and the effort required to achieve that market potential is almost the same. These three territories now look almost similar, and therefore my salespeople cannot come back to me and say, hey, you know what, he got an easy job and I got a difficult job, because now almost everyone has the easy or the same level of difficult job. Again, at this point of time, let me most probably take a breather and ask you guys, are you clear what we are talking about? Anyone who's not clear, please let me know in the next 5 or 10 seconds. If you're clear, then also let me know in the next 5 or 10 seconds. Just unmute.
Ma'am, how can we know what are the sales calls from a particular territory? So
Okay, great, fantastic. Good question, Arun. So how do we know what are the number of sales calls? That is, how much effort do I need to know? So this comes from experience, because if a company, so for example, if again, let me explain it to you with an example which you can identify with. So as a faculty today, I know that how much effort I have to put in to teach a 4-credit course versus a 2-credit course, right? So that's the experience. Similarly, with experience, you know that how much effort, how many sales calls are required to achieve this particular potential and this particular potential, right? So that's why I'm saying,
right,
this is an extremely sales territories are not made like the way we are doing in the 5 or 10 minutes. This is just to help you understand the basics, the foundation. This is one of the most important part of any sales organization, because my entire sales, the working of my sales people, our ability to reach our goals, our ability to retain our sales people, our ability to grow depends on whether we have created the right sales territories or not. And one of the basic fundas of sales territory creation is equal opportunity. Always remember, in life, you should provide everyone equal opportunity, right? So when actually we are making sales territories, we are using a lot of technical stuff. We are using we are using the geographical mapping, etc. We are using our experience of how many sales calls and so on. I'm not going into those details, because at this point of time, I'm just helping you to understand the basics.
Okay. Could you just give a few examples on what basis the sales manager will bifurcate the market potential?
So, I mean, we do our stats. So, for example, if I tell you now, so let me throw this question back to you. If I tell you that what is the market potential of Viman Nagar, how would you do? We do it by forecasting. Remember, I have shared the entire forecasting module with you in the asynchronous mode in the Google Classroom. That's where forecasting comes in, right? Otherwise, how will I know? That's where we forecast and we understand that what is, and forecasting, as I have shared with you, there are various ways of forecasting. It may be a simple Delphi method, or it may be through regression equations, or it may be through econometrics. So depending on how much accuracy and how much time and effort you have, you can use it to understand what is the potential of every area. Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
That's where data comes into picture. Do I go ahead? Can I move forward with
yes,
the next slides? Okay. So let me again share my screen with you. Okay, great, fantastic. So now I have 3 sales territories with me, with almost same potential and almost same effort. Now comes the difficult task of assigning the sales people to the sales territory. So you have whatever team of sales people. Now you need to allocate the sales territories to them. So you need to tell them to go on 3rd floor, 4th floor, whatever. So let's do this. Now this is another hypothetical situation which a company has shared with us. So they have 3 territories, A, B, and C, and the market potential of 3 territories is the same, 500,000. And they have 3 salespeople. Please understand, when I'm writing 1, 2, 3, these are the names of the salesperson, okay? So the name of one salesperson is 1, the name of the other salesperson is 2, and the name of the 3rd salesperson is 3. It is not that there are 3 salespeople. And their ability index. Now I wonder what ability index is. What does it mean? Well, ability index in simple language means that we have gone through motivation. We have understood that we have different personalities. We are not the same. You have gone through that case study where we saw about Rajat, Ravi, and Deepak. We saw absolutely 3 different people. Not only that, I have shared a Harvard Business Review article with you, which says that in an organization, we have people which can roughly be divided into star performers, core performers, and laggards. Again, a beautiful article worth reading. I hope you've read it. If you haven't, please do spend some time, because it actually will help you when you become a leader tomorrow to understand your people. So now that we have different kinds of people, obviously the ability index means their ability to achieve the given target, right? So the ability of Deepak was different, Rajat was different, and Ravi was different. Now the company, every company may have their own formula. I mean, depending on what is important to them or what is not important to them. For this particular company, according to them, the ability index of salesperson number 1 is 1. Which means that he has this ability to achieve 100 out of 100. Fantastic, great. According to this company, the ability index of salesperson number 2 is 0.8. What does it mean? He has the ability to get 80 out of 100. And the ability index of salesperson number 3 is 70%, which means he can easily get 70 out of 100. If that's true, then A will achieve sales of 500,000, B will achieve sales of 400,000, and C will achieve sales of 350,000. So look at this, we gave them the same platform. We gave them the same opportunity. However, depending on their ability index, they may or may not reach the goals. So total sales for the company is 1.25. The profit, according to the company, is always 25%. For this company, it is 25% of the sales. The moment I put the profit also, then the profit for the company is 312,500, 312,500. So the company thought that, okay, sometimes they are very, very fond of the salesperson number 1. So what did the company do? The company increased the sales target for salesperson number 1. They made it 600,000 for the salesperson number 2. They made 480,000, and for salesperson number 3, they decreased it. They made it 420,000. Now just look what's happening in the predicted sales and profit column. Earlier, it was 12.5 and 312. Now it is 12.78 and 319. Hooray! We have increased our revenue. We have increased our profit. This is awesome. Any point of time you feel any concern, any problem, any suggestion, any appreciation, unmute yourself and let me know. Is the company progressing in the right direction? Anyone? Do you think this is okay?
Ma'am, I just have one question. They would also have to increase the salary for the first salesperson, right? Because otherwise it will just be more work for him and he might just be demotivated thinking that I'm giving more.
That goes without saying. The salary will increase because we haven't yet done compensation. We will do compensation later. So please understand, for salespeople, usually, to put it very simply, it is always a fixed amount plus a variable amount, and the variable amount is dependent on what percentage of goals you reach. So since he is reaching his goals like anything, obviously it will increase. Yeah, it may increase.
Right.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Ma'am, I feel it will result in a quicker burnout for salesperson one.
Beautiful. Yes. Who's this? I can see you.
Sarthak.
Sarthak, yes, but this, Sarthak, I come back to what you said, and I really like and appreciate what you said. Think of yourself as a salesperson, okay? The company is very, very greedy, and the company is so happy. From 12.75, we are 12.78 instead of 312, 319. Fantastic. The salesperson number one is a gold mine, a diamond mine, or whatever, and they go further. Look at what did they do. They increased his targets to 1 million. And for the other two salespeople, it is 300,000 and 200,000. Hooray! Again, look at this 13.8. And 345. I mean, we started with 312. We are hitting 345. The company is jubilant. But please, please, what are we doing? And I appreciate what Sarthak said. We all the time spoke about motivation. We all the time spoke about equity theory of motivation. Please, don't you feel really, really bad when you are not treated equally? You protest, you raise your concern when you feel that you are being differentiated. And how did you not raise your concern now? What are we doing? Just because a person is good, we are just dumping all the goals on him. And where did my equity theory go? Where is the equal potential? How can salesperson number 2 have only 480,000 and salesperson number 3 have only 420,000 while salesperson number 1 has 600,000? Isn't this equivalent to saying that in your class, so let me give the easiest paper to the dumbest person, the person who scores 40%, let me give him such an easy paper, while the person who scores 95%, my God, I should give him or her a paper that is so difficult. Would that be fair? Is that fair?
Ma'am, it's only beneficial for the company.
Do that. Yeah, sorry?
It's beneficial for the company if they give a higher target to the person who has an ability index of 1. So it is only beneficial for the company.
Beneficial for the company? Where is the sales manager? Where is the lead? So I asked you a very simple question. It is beneficial for me also because let me give a person who scores 95% in the class the toughest paper. It's beneficial because that person will read more, study more, learn more. And person who scores 40%, let me give that person the easiest paper. Let me ensure that he stays dumb. Please. What? Beneficial for the company, but at what expense? What are we doing? What will happen to the salesperson number 1 and how much will you? Today you have made it 600,000, then you make it 1 million, you make it 2 million. Let him achieve all the goals. He's a human being. He'll burn out. And even if he doesn't burn out, most probably he will revolt against this injustice and leave the company, and you would lose a star performer who left not because he was not able to deliver, but who left because you could not value him, and you could not value him because you could not be just to him. You did not treat him in a fair manner. And just because to increase the profits? I mean, does the whole class think like this? That at the end of the day, what's important is just the sales and the profit, irrespective of what happens to the salespeople? Does the whole class have the same opinion?
Ma'am?
Yes?
Although we are giving him a lot more sales, but at the same time, he would get the same amount of commission. Wouldn't he feel that he's being...
And then his salary won't increase. So the point that he had raised, actually his salary won't increase. His salary, please understand, how does the commission work? I mean, it works if you achieve 100%. So you will get so much commission. If you achieve 80%, you will get so much commission. He is achieving 100%, but his 100% is increasing all the time. So his commission won't increase.
Okay.
How will his commission?
Alright, on that basis, his commission won't.
His commission won't increase. Commission
Ma'am,
is
maybe we can
But
set his commission on the number of products he's selling
sorry.
instead of a percentage of the target.
What did you say?
Instead of giving him a commission, you'll get X amount of money if you have of your target achieved. We might give him a commission on per product basis.
Aaron, the question over here is the basic question. Why are we diverting? I mean, is it fair to give different targets to different people? I mean, is it your fault that I am damn good in my job and therefore you will overload me with work? Is that what we are saying? That, hey, because
Ma'am, what?
you're damn good in your job and therefore I'm going to overburden you with work so much that you won't know what has hit you. On the other hand, you are so bad in your job and therefore I will not give you any work.
Ma'am, what I mean to say is that instead of giving him a target of 10 lakhs, we might use other motivation techniques to say that, if you sell anything above 5 lakhs, maybe we might
give him a target of 10 lakhs when others have a target of 33 lakhs and 4 lakhs and 5 lakhs. Should he get the same target as others? Why are we doing this? Why are we burdening him with more work? Is it his fault that he's good in his job? Shivam, you wanted to say something?
Ma'am, I just wanted to say that according to my opinion, we can continue giving him more targets, but it has to end somewhere. Right? We can't exhaust him with.
Then what happens to the principle of treating everyone equally?
Ma'am, he's a star performer. He has some qualities. He has, we can actually use him to train other colleagues of him, or give him.
How? By overburdening him? Please, how? By making him by burning him out? Is it his fault that he's good? I mean, what you're effectively saying is that a person who's good in his job shouldn't be allowed to breathe, and on the other hand, a person who's bad in his job should have all the fun in life.
Ma'am, but not burning him out, but giving him more opportunities, basically.
How? Where does the equal? So again, that's what I'm saying. So in a class, what effectively you are telling me is that people who are good in their studies, their passing percentage, they should, if they do not score minimum 80%, they should be declared fail. While a person who does not study, who does not attend classes, who never comes, who does not have any clue what's happening in the class, that person, his passing percentage, the minimum should be 40%. That's what you're saying. That we should have different passing percentage for different people depending on their capability. So if you are a star performer in a class, you will only pass if you score 80%. And if you are one of those laggard in a class, you will pass even if you score 20%. Is that fair, Shivam? We'll implement it from tomorrow.
Ma'am, I feel it would be
No,
fair
Shivam,
if
is
we
that
increase
fair?
his.
No, ma'am, it's not.
So then, if it is not fair for you, then why is it fair for that salesperson? Why should he not have the same things? Something that is not fair for you, you feel it's not fair. But when it comes to okay, let me put it more bluntly. Let's assume that you are in a sales team. So Shivam is there, Aryan is there, Sonia is there, Saloni is there, and the only reason why I picked up these names are because these names are visible on the screen. I hardly know anyone. So Shiva, you have to sell 100 units, Aryan has to sell 60 units, and Saloni and Sonia only have to sell 30 units. And if they achieve their targets, and you have to achieve your targets, if you achieve, then you are considered a star performer. Is it fair?
Ma'am, it's not, but actually this is
Why?
actually
Why is it
what
not
happens in, while working for Simpulse as well. When we give targets to the, no, I'm not giving that example, but it actually happens that when a person is given a higher target, he feels motivated, and he works harder to achieve it, and he
Can
thinks
I
that
put it in the reverse manner? When you give a lower target to someone, he feels demotivated. Is it fair on your part to motivate someone and demotivate someone? As a leader, shouldn't you be equal in treating all your employees equally and try to motivate everyone? How can you be partial? You are being partial. Should a leader be partial? If a leader can be partial, please allow me to be partial. Please allow me to decide whom I should give, and not on the basis of your marks. I will give according to who says good morning to me in the chat box or good afternoon and who does not say. A leader is supposed to be impartial. A leader is supposed to treat everyone equally. How can you motivate someone and demotivate another one? On what basis? We are supposed to motivate everyone.
So is there any way we can achieve the same sales target by
Why not? Why not? Rather than finding a solution, what we are doing is that we are overburdening that good performer, and we are demotivating him in the long run. And don't we do this in our personal life all the time? Please go back and think about the relationships that you have with your friends, enemies, neighbors, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That person who's nice, that person who listens to you, that person who loves you, respects you, you take that person for granted. You spend 80% of your time looking after those stupid 20% people who don't deserve it. And that's exactly what you're doing. Just because that performer number 1 is damn good in his job, he scores 100 out of 100, we'll get after his life? How fair is that? And look at what we are doing to those who don't contribute. We are saying, you know what? In the process, what we are telling them is, so let me go back. We are saying, you know what, salesperson number 3, you are so bad, and that's perfectly okay. Earlier, your target was 500,000 because you're so bad in your job, I have reduced it to 200,000. Excuse me, that's a reward for me. So let me be bad in my job because I will get less amount of work, but my salary will remain the same because I will keep achieving it. So I'm actually relaxing because I'm bad. I mean, instead of being thrown out, I am relaxing in the company. What are we doing? Look at salesperson number 2. You know, salesperson number 2, you are not that good. You only score 80%. So instead of 500,000, we will only ask you to achieve 300,000. Wow, fantastic. The message that I'm giving is we should not work. Because when we don't work, then our targets will be reduced. Hooray. Fantastic. That's what I want. And if we work, our targets will be increased. What are we doing? Please never, ever, as a leader, forget that you have to treat your people equally. Never, ever, as a leader, forget that you have to provide equal opportunities to your people. Never, ever, as a leader, forget that you're supposed to nurture talent, not kill. At the same time, you're not supposed to reward the laggards. You are supposed to help them become a core performer. Please, your job is to take the star performers to a different level. At the same time, help the laggards become a core performer and not give a message that those who work will be penalized. What is there for? Next time, I will stop achieving the targets if I am salesperson number 1, because the moment I achieve my targets, you burden me more. I would rather be salesperson number 3, where I know, hooray, if I don't achieve, they'll further. So next year, they will reduce my targets further. Great. This amounts to in a class that, you know what, you are, so Shivam, you scored you scored 95% last time. Fantastic. This year, we will only declare you pass if you scored 96%. On the other hand, Mr. XYZ, you could hardly score 45% last time, and we really sympathize with you. This year, we will pass you if you just score 40% also. Fantastic. Let me stop studying now. Let me not attend any classes, because from 45% it will become 40, then 35, then 30, then 25, 20, 15, and finally we'll go to your home and say, you know what, we understand you can't study at all, and therefore we are passing you with 0%. And on the other hand, Shivam, last time we put a target of 96% for you. This time it is 98%, now 99%, now 100%. What? You've achieved 100% also. Now it is 105%. What are we doing? has to be same for everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Agreed.
It has to be 40% or 45%. Please, please, if you want to achieve anything in life, if you want to reach anywhere in life, or even if you don't want to reach anywhere in life, if you just want to be that good human being, be fair to people. Please be fair. That's all people demand. Be fair. Nothing more, nothing less. Nobody is asking you to become generous. Nobody is asking you to become a miser. All we are saying is be fair. For example, if I'm rude to people, I'm rude to all. I'm fair. Having said that, can there still be a way in which I can increase my profit from the original free one too? And for that, I need, yes?
Ma'am, I feel you're totally correct that we shouldn't burden him. But since he's a star performer, he's really important to the company. So we have to increase his targets. But at the same time, we need to increase his motivation also. So there can be several ways that can.
How can you increase this? If you increase his target, you have to increase the target of number 2 and number 3 also.
Ma'am, we can increase his target while not reducing number 2 and number 3's target. Or maybe,
No.
ma'am, we can different motivation techniques. We can keep his target the same, and we can tell him for anything above the target that you achieve, you will get an extra commission. Let's say your target is 500,000 and you have achieved that, and now you have.
Keep that point in mind, and we'll discuss that when we do the compensation policy. Okay? Let's see, because we have to be fair even in compensation. No?
Right. Yes.
So keep this in mind and bring this up when I do the compensation. I like what you're saying. I'm not saying that I don't like what you're saying, but let's do this when we are doing the compensation policy. This point, the last point that you make, and let's see if you can do that. Okay?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so let's now see if there can still be a way in which I can keep the same things. You know, when I talk about compensation policy, compensation is not just quantitative, it is also qualitative. So promotion is also a compensation type of. And if your star performer would most probably be promoted in the next financial year. But as I said, let's not complicate things. Right now, these 3 people are all sales people. And when we discuss compensation policy, at that point of time, we'll reach this point. So can I still increase?
Ma'am, I just wanted to add one more thing. In sales, as far as I know, some companies have this policy that if you overachieve, you and your family, wife and kids or something like that can go on a
compensation policy. Compensation is qualitative and quantitative. Let's go step by step. Okay? Right now, when does compensation come? After you have performed. When do I get my salary? I get my salary at the end of the month. I don't get my September salary on 1st September. I get my September salary on 30th September. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So right now, we are at a stage when our people are still performing.
Okay.
And once we finish this, then we'll come to compensation. How can I talk about compensation before even performance?
Okay.
We spoke about performance. Now we are looking at performance. Once we understand performance, then we'll talk about compensation, and we will take up both the points of what someone said about holiday for the family and things. But let us first perform. Right now we haven't even performed. Okay. So let's.
The target has to be the same. I think the only thing that can be changed in this particular table is the ability index.
How can I change the ability index?
I mean, improve upon it.
Yes, how?
I'm training, analyzing.
Yeah, good. Yes. So please understand, can I still, where is it that I can still increase things for performance for salesperson number 2 and salesperson number, see, there are always solutions. There is no problem in this world which doesn't have a solution. We always tend to look at the easiest solutions, and sometimes, believe me, easiest solution is not the best solutions. Now, when you looked at it, we found a fill in the blank. The fill in the blank is that while salesperson number 1 has ability index of 100%, salesperson 2 and salesperson 3 have ability index of 80% and 70%. There is scope. From 80%, he too can go to 100%. If he's not going, that means there is some gap. Why is there a gap? The gap is based on two things. Go back, what is performance? Performance is a product of motivation into training. So either salesperson number 2, and I'm only picking up one salesperson, and the same is true for salesperson number 3 also, either salesperson number 2 is not motivated, or salesperson number 2 needs training. And if we identify what is it that is lacking and we provide him with that, which is either motivation or training, maybe his ability index will move from 0.8 to 0.85 or 0.9, right? It's just similar to in a class. So if there is a student who's constantly scoring only 50%, why is he scoring 50%? Two things. Either he's not motivated, which means that he just doesn't want to study. He, for whatever reason, he thinks this is not what I want to do. Or second, he's not understanding training. So the moment we either motivate him or we help him understand what's going on in the class, the probability of his ability index to increase from 50% to maybe 55%, 60%, or 65% will happen. So we have to find that fill in the blank, right? So again, a hypothetical situation. Let's assume that, let's assume that one of the salespeople, so what, look at this, what we have done. So let's assume the salesperson number 2 belongs to Chennai, or some other South Indian state, or to Kerala or Karnataka or whatever. Now, all through his life, he has stayed in a place which is hot. He knows a certain language, which is most probably he knows Tamil, he knows English, and he knows, maybe he may or may not know Hindi. That's where he has been. And now suddenly, as a sales manager, you, the leader, put him in a sales territory in Punjab. He is uncomfortable. He doesn't understand the language. He has never seen so much of cold before. For those of you who belong to North India, you would agree with me. In December, January, it's so cold. And if a person, you can't even see more than 200, 300 meters over there. There's so much of fog. The food is so different. Please, our culture affects us. He has never lived in that environment. He has never faced that climate. He doesn't understand that food. He doesn't understand that language. He's so uncomfortable. And he's uncomfortable because you, the leader, never understood. And therefore, his performance is 0.8. So what do? Let's put him in an area which he is comfortable. When we did that, we moved him back to back to Andhra Pradesh or Karnataka or whatever. The moment we did that, look at it. His ability index became 0.9. On the other hand, salesperson number 1, he was changed and his ability index, he was put in the right place, whatever, remained the same. We have still increased the profit. Look at this, it's 325. From the original 312, we have hit 325, and all we did was respect our people. Respect our people and understand what is their problem. We still have the same targets given to everyone, which means we are giving everyone the same opportunity. We are being fair to everyone. Plus, we have, as a sales manager, I have also taken care of my team, understood their problems, understood their difficulties, and accordingly did the adjustment. You are not dealing with machines, please. If life was all about maths, then all of us would be scoring 100. Life is also about understanding people. And the moment we did that, our profit increased. Does this, let me take a break at this point of time. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Are you understanding what we did in the class today? Did everyone understand what we did in the class today?
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe let me take a break at this point of time. There is still more to sales territories, but let me not proceed because I want you to go back and think of what we have done today. I want you to think of yourself both as a sales manager as well as a salesperson. think, how would you like to be treated as a salesperson? And then think that, are you doing it as a sales manager? As an employee, I have different expectations, and as a boss, I behave differently. Is that fair? No. Am I saying profits and revenue are not important or no? They're very, very important, but not at the cost of not taking care of your people, not at the cost of being unfair to your people, not at the cost of promoting mediocrity, not at the cost of burning out your star performers. And all this is extremely simple if you understand that the basic foundation is be fair. Be fair to people around you. Treat them with respect. Give them the respect that they deserve. There are always fill in the blanks in everyone's performance, and that's why we are there. To fill it, to help them fill it. Again, as I'm saying, to help them fill it. You may not be always able to fill it. But it all starts by being fair. If you're fair, the rest of the things automatically fall in place. Let me stop the class here.